We're on the clock now with 1 minute as a group to handle a full lineup of other headlines. Got a bunch of them. Let's start with the Supreme Court tossing out the Chris Garcia prostitution case. Here's what it hung on. The definition of a, quote, house of prostitution does not include a website, the court says. Tom, there's already a bill in the works to change that definition, but who looks worse, the court, the legislature for failing to keep our laws up to date, or frankly, Mr. Garcia? Who looks worse here?
Okay, all of the above.
There you go.
I would say, what this really does is it raises the issue of, online, what constitutes what,
right.
A lot of definitions, and even though, the internet has been around for, a decade or 2 decades, depending on who you listen to and believe, it's still, there's still a lot of laws that need to be developed to really kind of guide us.
What do you think about this one, Senator? I mean, the legislature's trying to fix something here. Is it fixable?
I'm not sure it is. We have considered many bills about pornography on the internet and entrapment on the internet and so on. And it's a moving target because the technology is changing so quickly.
Sure.
But it seems obvious that this is not a house of prostitution.
Right.
So I don't blame the court, really.
It's a funny term, house of prostitution. We're at 10 seconds, John. What do you think on this one?
I agree. I don't blame the court. I think that ultimately Chris Garcia, who's a person that I used to respect a lot, is let a lot of us down.
And he wants to work at UNM again, as we saw in the paper this week.
Which is just kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm going to hold you there, Jamie. New Mexico is on a top 5 list. Of course, it's the top 5 states that are losing population. Jamie, I'm going to start with you. Symptom of what?
Symptom of the fact that there's no leadership on economic development. It seems to be like the secondary issue in the state that nobody's paying attention to the fact that we're losing jobs like crazy. And I think that, hello, wake up. We're the only Sunbelt state. What Sunbelt state loses population?
That's interesting. And 2 years of no growth will do this, won't it? It just doesn't take long. People need to make a living and get on with their lives.
I encourage people to go on Google and look at population. They can compare every state with a graph. It's really distincting to see the flat line in Mississippi and New Mexico.
Well, those are the people who could just afford to use Mayflower to move them. Right. How many people just said, I'm out of here? And evidently
packed up the trunk and
Students, imagine what it's like to graduate college in the past couple of years.
Right. Interesting. It's a tough time. We'll see. A bill requiring background checks for private sales at gun shows passed the House this week. We discussed this last Friday night quite loudly. It's on the arguably more conservative Senate. Now, John, what do you think about the chances there? I'm so fascinated with this bill. It's interesting.
Well, it's going to be very interesting to see whether it passes the Senate. If you look, it was a successful bipartisan effort, and we see so little of that that I want to just compliment the House of Representatives for passing this bipartisan compromise. It was great.
Interesting. Jamie, your thoughts?
Semi-partisan. I think there were only 8 Republicans that voted for it.
There were 8 Republicans in all who had won their elections by less than 1% or so, but
really,
still.
Yeah, except for one of them, I think.
Mostly from Albuquerque and the
metro area, where these things are, we'll see. I don't know that I see this passing.
Interesting. Tom, what do you think about its possibilities here?
I'll side with Jamie. I don't see. I think it's an emotional, it's a smart issue, but I don't think it'll pass.
I'm going to stay with you. Got 10 seconds there. Nationally, is this losing momentum a little bit?
Sadly, yes, it is. And we saw it. After all the different mass shootings.
Sure.
There's a peak and then it drops off. So sadly, unfortunately, it is.
That's interesting. I think I'd agree with you. Sadly, there. Speaking of awkward sips, will anyone remember anything Marco Rubio had to say in response to the State of the Union address when he unblinkingly swung from a not so nearby cup of water, and he kind of disappeared again and kind of came back? It was great. Didi, was that a major blooper, or was this significant in a Twitter universe that just something weird just sort of blew up into this giant thing? The man was thirsty. What was the problem here?
I know. Maybe he thought it was a rehearsal or something.
Right.
I think it's a non-event. I have no idea except for the Twitter value of it and the Letterman value of it, which was, I think, the top 10 reasons last night.
Yeah, that's right.
Why this has gotten so much publicity.
That's right. Tom, is this like the Howard Dean scream? What's going on?
It was comic relief. I think America needed a chuckle, and they got one.
There you go, Jamie.
Hot lamps. He did this a couple times. He was clearly not a comfortable place to give it.
Yep.
And I think the only person I think that has delivered this right, I think, is Governor McDonnell of Virginia, who actually gave it in an audience setting in the state
in their
state house there in Virginia, in Richmond, and so had an audience, had applause moments and those moments where you can take a sip of water. I've seen Senator Rubio several times give speeches. He's fantastic, and I've seen him drink water.
He's pretty something on the floor, on the Senate floor. He's pretty wild. Yeah.
I think he had a great explanation. He said something like, God has the strangest ways of reminding us that we're human.
Right, there you
I
go.
thought it was a good response.
Good for him. That's how you become a
I'm drinking
national
water
figure.
in his honor.
There you go. Albuquerque's minimum wage hike will affect student workers here at the University of New Mexico, costing the school $500,000. Tom, it's hard to get more money from the state these days, which means student fees are likely the spot to make up the difference here. Bad PR, or it's just their hands are tied here? It's a lot of dough.
Well, it's just, it is a lot of dough, but you know what, it's an unintended consequence of increasing the minimum wage. I mean, it's not just the University of New Mexico, but there are a lot of other businesses, pizza companies in town, restaurant, food service companies that are really going to be facing some difficult decisions because of this new law.
But interesting how the institution came out early to talk about what it's going to cost them.
Oh, but
that
I
really
had
hit
to
me.
laugh. I had to laugh. This was the athletics department where they said they were going to have to lay off people. The athletics department is the most well-funded department by the state in the school. So,
I'm laughing because our poor impoverished students that run this show, I can hear them chuckling in the background like, athletics, my goodness gracious.
We didn't have almost as much debate when we sent $750,000 Loxley's way.
There you go.
So, I mean, this is, I think students need the money.
There you go. What do you think, Jamie?
Well, I think it's just indicative of the damage that I think minimum wage does to the economy as a whole. And it's only one part of the public budget here, but I think we're going to see the impacts in the private sector.
There you go. There's talk at the Round House about softening New Mexico's stance on marijuana, including bills to study the impact of taxing the legal sale of the plant and turning possession of less than 4 ounces into a civil penalty. Jamie, let's stay with you here. Let me tell you something I told our producer, Matt Grubbs, about this. We haven't even figured out how to do medical marijuana.
Right.
Are we supposed to take this grand leap into legalization, not even figuring that out? How does this work?
Or not even seeing what Washington State and Colorado are doing here and how that is going to impact their societies, their communities, and I think that's the step that needs to be taken. I'm not in favor of legalization. I listen to what law enforcement says on this issue, that it's perhaps something that is actually bad for society.
John, would you agree with that?
I do actually agree with that. I'm not in favor of legalization. I do think some level of decriminalization of small marijuana possession may make sense because we don't really want to be imprisoning people on those kind of offenses. It's way too expensive. But I tend to agree with Jamie on that legalization is not something I support.
Sure. Is that a compelling enough argument, Tom Garrity, the taxation issue? That is good. No, not enough, huh?
No, there's not enough process, not enough support. It's a bad idea.
There's a tremendous amount of support for legalizing marijuana. Just put it on the ballot and see how much support there is
I
for
bet.
it.
Yeah.
So
that's a great idea.
But on the other hand, we spend so much, on the 3,000 people or whatever it is a year that are imprisoned and charged every year.
That's right.
It's just too much money. And Gary Johnson would agree, by the way.
That's
He
true.
would. He
Good
would.
point there. Pope Benedict XVI will step down at the end of the month, as we all know. The last time something like that was news, Henry V was the King of England, and Galileo is about, 150 years from being born. John, I mean, it's interesting. Is this a precedent for modern popes here? Because the idea is the person, not to be flip about it, but he dies in the seat. He carries it all the way to the end. But somehow this idea to leave it and make room for somebody else might be an opportunity, if you think of it that way.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that, I've just been fascinated. I'm not a Catholic myself, but I did go, my wife is Catholic. And it's just a fascinating, where I do think that this is a very conservative pope. But in this sense, he's trying to do his own form of modernization. And I think it's necessary with how long people live. He realizes that he doesn't feel like he can do the job anymore. And so it seems like the Archbishop had it right that it was an act of courage, kind of modernizing, recognizing his own personal limits.
Sure, and you think about the issues on the desk of the Pope now in these days.
Well, I'm not a
wear
Catholic.
down anybody.
I'm not Catholic either, but I understand. What I see, I think, with the Pope in his role now, especially in the 21st century, it is a global job,
Right.
and he's traveling all over the world. It is very different from this, 6th century, whenever it was, 16th century, when you stay in the Vatican. So
Right.
it's a very different kind of
Yeah.
vote.
Interesting. I want to go back to this opportunity. Is there something, an opportunity for a different point of view now coming out of the church?
Huge opportunity. And having been raised Catholic in the Catholic Church, I think there's a great opportunity for the Catholic Church to, really find a leader that can address many of the different issues. There's still, a lot of legal issues that are pending out there, a lot of social issues that need to be addressed. This is their chance to win back a lot of the community and really to show, what grace and forgiveness is all about.
Sure, going to hold you there, Senator. We got a ton of them here. The same House committee that approved a proposed amendment to guarantee the right to same-sex marriage killed an effort to prevent it. Senator, is this a signal of anything other than the fact that Democrats still control the House, or what I'm getting at here, was this purely about the issue of at hand, or was it about politics?
I think it was the partisan divide. I think
Yeah.
you're seeing the partisan divide once again. We've seen this for the past several years, and it's going to continue.
Tom, your thought there? What do you think?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. What would it take to get something like this to move through? Is it just not enough Republicans are going to support something like this?
The Republicans getting behind this,
Yeah.
it's just not going to happen.
Would you agree with that, Jamie?
It's a partisan divide around the country,
Yeah.
and I think that that's the debate about whether or not you actually let the people versus judges make the decisions about these sorts of
Sure.
things.
Since I got to ask this, since constitutional amendments seem to be the thing in the air right now, what would happen if it was a constitutional amendment and worked around the governor? Would that be a viable solution here for those who want to see this happen?
I think it's a viable solution. I personally am not a huge fan of amending constitutions unless there's a really strong reason for it and that we have this checks and balances, but I think that is true. I think the larger issue is the partisan divide and how we begin having some dialogue between the parties over major issues. That's just the problem. It's the first time in history nationally, it's the first time in American history where the Secretary of Defense is going to be filibustered. That's just
that's true
sad.
too. Right.
National defense, first time it's ever happened. We're in a pretty bad shape.
Interesting. 10
just
seconds.
quickly, but it's not. It is a partisan issue when you look at same-sex marriages, but it's also a religious issue as well.
Yeah.
You have Catholic. The Catholic Church has been very vocal on this particular issue and has used its clout in the
I'm
legislature.
glad you slipped that in. Good for you. Thank you,
Yeah.
guys. Terrific conversation on a Good Friday night. Thanks for spending an hour with us this week. Next week, we'll have an extended conversation about gun rights, gun violence, and gun control. In the meantime, find us on the web for expanded legislative coverage. I'm Gene Grant. We'll see you next week in Focus.